Florida State adds Tylon Lee to their 2025 recruiting class.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith. Today's show is a quick one on the newest member of the 2025 Florida State recruiting class, Tylon Lee, defensive end out of Pace High School just outside of Pensacola. He was originally committed to Ole Miss. It's ironic because Ole Miss has made a pretty big dent in the state of Florida with Lane Kiffin knowing the state after his time at FAU, but the Noles get it done and flip him. This is a really good football player, and I think he's, quite frankly, pretty underrated. I don't know why the recruiting services have him where they do, so I'm going to present my screen for those of you that are on YouTube right now, and I will go over his rankings regardless with everybody right now. So Lee was only a 4-star by one service. I was very surprised by this. That is On3. They have him as a 4-star and the number 71 player in the country, but nobody else has him in their top 250. It's odd. I think he's conservatively a top 150 player. I think he's a top 10 to 15 guy in the state of Florida, too. 6'4", 240-ish, I would guess, just by looking at him. He's listed at 260 on3. They got him at 6'5.5". I mean, that may be accurate, but he really changes direction well when he's running downhill. There was a play, they had him at middle linebacker at Pace High School, and Lee just, quite frankly, just made a running back look very, very average. A smaller guy, real twitchy, stuck with him and hammered him. But with that, again, nobody else has him in their top 250. 247 has him as the number 61 edge, ESPN the number 51 edge, and Rivals as the number 44. I'm really interested to see what happens with Lee long-term because athletically he has all the tools, and I can see why so many schools were interested in him. Looking at his recruitment overall, some of the offers that he had, Miami, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. Obviously, he had Florida State. He had Mississippi State. He had Tennessee. He had Penn State, Georgia Tech, Duke, Virginia Tech, Kansas, UCF, Louisville. I mean, there's a lot of programs that offered this young man a scholarship. So what are the highlights of him and what else should Florida State fans expect? A couple of things. Because he's gained enough weight, and if he truly is up to 260, I could see him playing a little bit next year, but that brings up the obvious question. Which position? Is he going to be a true 3-man down defensive lineman? Now remember, with Tony White coming in, they're going to be a 3-man line, barring something very unforeseen. Or will Tylon Lee play a little bit of that stand-up outside linebacker position? They call it the jack that rushes. I don't know. But he has the size to play either. And he is a really good athlete. Just need to see what happens this spring and next summer. He might play a combination of the two. That depends on one's perspective. But again, the athleticism and the strength are there. And the way he chases plays down from behind, I don't think there's any doubt that he's an elite athlete. He's got the go juice. He wants to get after it. I'm very surprised that he doesn't have more acclaim by the scouting services. But next time I talk to some of my buddies at some of the different services, I'll ask about that. The other thing about him that I think is unique, this is a kid that despite all the positions that he played, if you just put him at one spot, and again, I'm not sure what the best one is, I think he could help you before the end of his freshman year because of the size. He's going to be able to take on some plays a little bit easier. Now, he needs refinement. And I'm not saying start at Florida State or any FBS school. That D lineman starting as freshman is generally a very bad idea. The strength that you need is not going to be there until you've been in the weight room at least one full calendar year. That's the norm. But Tylon Lee's not a normal kid either. He wouldn't be a major league recruit that a bunch of schools in the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, etc. want if it wasn't for his physical gifts. Now, if I had my druthers, I would see him eventually, maybe even to start, put his hand in the ground, play a 4-eye position, the weak side 4-eye position in the 3-man line. But at the same time, he's athletic enough. If you want to stand him up at least part of the time, you can do it. Here's the caveat. If he's going to play that stand-up in a 2-point stance, that means he's probably going to have to drop some. I don't know if he wants to do that. I don't know if he's really conditioned to do that. I have no idea. Nebraska's defense is probably a little more complex than Florida State's in some regards because most three-man lines are because you got four linebackers, or at least one of them a hybrid and then three linebackers. It's more complex in what they do. There's more to learn. So I would like him to be able to play down and just focus on going ahead and keeping it simple. Just my opinion. But maybe he's good enough and academically inclined enough to pick up the offenses that he's going against by watching the film, learn his own playbook at Florida State, and be a guy that can drop once in a while. That can understand when to peel off and take the running back or the tight end of the flat. Those things are big because with the athleticism, if he understands what's going on, that Tylon Lee is a tremendous football prospect. So once again, Florida State whips Tylon Lee from Ole Miss. They've added another really good football player to the class of 2025. So the Noles have finished pretty darn strong considering everything that happened during the 2024 college football season. With that, please hit that like button and that notification bell. And if you have not already, please subscribe. I truly appreciate you helping me get in front of more fans by spreading this podcast to all the different people you know that root for Florida State. I truly appreciate that. And you can find me on X at FBScout_Florida. If you want to find out what's going on with the next podcast or anything with Florida State and college football, again, FBScout_Florida. I will see everyone again very soon.